My beloved sisters, let me share something very important with you today. Many times people take advantage of your kindness. They see your smile, your patience, your willingness to forgive, and they begin to think you are weak. But Islam did not ask you to be weak. Islam asked you to be strong, dignified, and unshakable in your faith. Being soft-hearted is a blessing, but being soft in character to the point where people walk all over you is not a blessing. It is a test, and you must learn to draw the line. Your value as a woman is immense. Allah has honored you. He has raised your status. Never let anyone belittle you, whether it is in your home, in your workplace, or in society. If you know your worth, you will not allow anyone to strip away your respect. Strength does not mean shouting. Strength does not mean becoming harsh. Strength means standing firm in your principles. Strength means saying no when something displeases Allah. Even if the entire world is pressuring you to say yes. Sometimes you think patience means silence while being oppressed. No, my sister, patience means holding on to your values while seeking justice in the right way. It does not mean allowing someone to crush your soul. Islam gave you rights, so don't surrender them out of fear or pressure. Set boundaries. Respect yourself enough to say, this is wrong and I will not accept it. That is not arrogance, that is dignity. And dignity is part of faith. Seek knowledge. Learn the Quran. Learn the teachings of the Prophet. When you empower yourself with knowledge, no one can misguide you, no one can fool you, and no one can manipulate you. And finally, remember, your greatest strength is not in the way people see you. Your greatest strength is in your relationship with Allah. If you stand with Him, you are the strongest woman on earth, no matter who stands against you. So, stop being a soft woman in the sense of weakness. Be a soft woman with mercy, with love, with kindness, but be a strong woman in faith, in character, and in dignity. That is the woman who inspires generations. When we speak about strength, many people confuse it with harshness. They think that to be strong, you must raise your voice, you must intimidate, you must be aggressive. But in reality, strength is not about how loud you are, nor about how much you can frighten others. True strength is found in your ability to remain firm while still being gentle, to remain principled without becoming arrogant, to remain courageous without losing your compassion. That is real strength, and that is the strength that a believing woman is encouraged to have. Think about the life of the Prophet He was the strongest of men, yet his strength was never measured by how harsh he was. It was measured by his self-control, his patience, his dignity, and his unwavering principles. When he had every reason to become harsh, he chose gentleness. When he had every reason to retaliate, he forgave. That is because true strength is the ability to control yourself, not the ability to control others. For a woman, this lesson is essential. Some may tell you that if you want to be respected, you need to adopt the attitude of harshness, to abandon your softness, to raise your voice in every disagreement. But that is not the way forward. Islam teaches balance. You can be soft-hearted and still be unshakably strong. You can be polite, caring, and compassionate, yet when it comes to your faith, your dignity, and your principles, you do not move an inch. That is the strength that is admired and respected, even if some people do not say it aloud. Often, people take advantage of women because they mistake kindness for weakness. If you are accommodating, they think you have no power. If you are forgiving, they think you can be walked over. But my sister, your mercy is a gift, not a weakness. Your smile is a form of charity, not an invitation for others to abuse your patience. What you need to remember is that Islam never called you to abandon your softness. It called you to pair it with firmness. The Prophet said, the strong person is not the one who overcomes others in wrestling. The strong person is the one who controls himself when angry. If strength lies in self-control, then surely strength lies in a woman's ability to maintain her values, her peace, and her dignity while the world is trying to provoke her into becoming something she is not. Do not be deceived by the modern idea that strength equals rudeness. Some will tell you that if you want to survive, you must become hard, cold, and heartless. But that is not true. Your beauty as a woman lies in your gentleness, your nurturing nature, your ability to bring warmth to those around you. Strength does not require you to throw all of that away. Strength requires you to protect it. Strength is when you continue to be merciful, but you do not allow anyone to exploit that mercy. Strength is when you continue to be kind, but you do not allow anyone to manipulate that kindness. Strength is when you continue to be patient, but you do not allow patience to be an excuse for accepting injustice. Look at the women around the Prophet A. They were not weak. They were strong in their own ways, yet their strength never came from harshness. Khadija Bey, Yadi Bizajum Viyar supported the Prophet A at the most difficult time, giving him comfort when the world rejected him. Was that weakness? No, it was strength. Aisha Ijo Deepradasidiso was known for her intelligence, her ability to speak her mind, and her knowledge of the religion. Was that harshness? No, it was strength. Fatima Ijo Ebisa Chundiyo lived a life of simplicity, hardship, and patience, yet she remained steadfast in her faith. Was that weakness? No, it was strength. Your strength today must reflect that same balance. When people test you, remind yourself that you do not need to shout to prove your point. You do not need to be rude to earn respect. Your respect will come from your dignity, from the way you carry yourself, from the way you stick to your values. When you say no to something displeasing to Allah, say it calmly, say it with dignity, but say it firmly, and let no one shake that resolve. That firmness is your shield, and that gentleness is your beauty. Together, they create the true picture of strength. Never underestimate the power of calm strength. Sometimes, one word spoken with dignity carries more weight than hours of shouting. Sometimes, one act of patience shows more courage than years of harshness. Sometimes, one silent refusal is stronger than 1,000 loud arguments. Strength is not how hard you can hit back. Strength is how gracefully you can stand without falling when others push you. So, my sister, embrace your softness, but never confuse it with weakness. Embrace your strength, but never confuse it with harshness. You are not required to change your nature to please people. You are required to refine your nature to please Allah. When you do that, your strength will shine through, and your softness will become your crown. You will be respected, you will be valued, and most importantly, you will know within yourself that you have lived with dignity, and that is the highest form of strength. One of the greatest qualities Allah has blessed you with is kindness. A kind word, a gentle smile, a helping hand, a forgiving heart. These are qualities that make a person beloved in the sight of Allah. The Prophet A himself was the kindest of people, and he reminded us that kindness is never wasted. A small act of compassion can open the doors of mercy from Allah in this world and the next. But there is something you must understand very clearly. While kindness is a virtue, weakness is not. People will sometimes blur the two. They will see your kindness, your patience, your generosity, and they will attempt to take advantage of it. That is when you must draw a line and remind yourself that your kindness is an act of worship for the sake of Allah, not an open invitation for others to exploit you. There is a difference between being merciful and being naive. Mercy is deliberate. You know what you are doing. You choose to forgive. You choose to give. You choose to be gentle. And Allah rewards you for it. Naivety, on the other hand, is when you continuously allow people to harm you, deceive you, and manipulate you, thinking that you are simply being patient. No, my sister, patience does not mean standing silently while others drain your soul. Patience means you endure the tests of life with dignity, but you also take the necessary steps to protect yourself from harm. Sometimes people notice your forgiving nature and begin to think they can do anything to you because you will always forgive. They cross boundaries, they disrespect you, and then they say, but you are supposed to be patient. This is manipulation, and Islam never asked you to accept it. The Prophet 8 taught us that the believer is not stung from the same hole twice. If someone keeps exploiting you, then you are not being patient, you are being careless with yourself, and you are allowing another person to sin repeatedly by abusing your kindness. Protecting yourself is part of your responsibility. Saying no is sometimes an act of worship. Refusing to be exploited is a form of dignity that Allah loves. Remember that your time, your energy, your heart, your generosity, these are trusts from Allah. You are not to waste them on people who have no appreciation, no respect, and no gratitude. Islam teaches us to give, yes, but Islam also teaches us to give with wisdom. You do not pour from a vessel that is empty. You do not give so much of yourself that you lose your own peace, your own faith, and your own balance. This is why boundaries are important. Boundaries do not make you arrogant. Boundaries do not make you selfish. Boundaries make you responsible, wise, and dignified. Think about the Prophet A again. His mercy was unmatched, but he was never exploited. When people crossed their limits, he confronted them with truth. When they tried to take advantage, he stood firm. His heart was filled with compassion, but his principles were unshakable. That is the balance you must aim for. Let people see your kindness, but let them also see your strength. Be merciful, but do not allow your mercy to be a weakness that others abuse. Many sisters think that if they stop people from exploiting them, they will lose their image of being kind. This is a trap. Your kindness is not determined by how much you let others take from you. Your kindness is measured by your sincerity for the sake of Allah. If you help someone, do it for Allah, not for people. If you forgive, forgive for Allah, not because people are forcing you to. But when you realize someone is using your heart against you, that is when you step back. Because continuing to allow exploitation is not kindness anymore. It is injustice to yourself. And Islam does not permit injustice, whether against others or against yourself. There are those who may say to you, but isn't Islam about always giving? Yes, Islam encourages giving, but not foolish giving. Yes, Islam encourages forgiveness, but not forgiveness that enables oppression. Yes, Islam encourages patience, but not patience that accepts humiliation. The companions of the Prophet were generous, but they were not exploited. They forgave, but they demanded justice. They were patient, but they were also dignified. That is the model you should follow. Every time you let someone exploit your kindness, remember that you are teaching them it is okay to continue harming you. In reality, you are doing them no favor. You are giving them more chances to sin. But when you stand up with dignity and say, this is enough, you are helping both yourself and them. You are protecting your heart, your soul, your peace, and you are also reminding them of limits. In this way, your kindness becomes complete, balanced with wisdom, guided by faith, and protected by strength. So, let your kindness be sincere, but let it also be guarded. Give, but give wisely. Forgive, but do not allow repeated harm. Be patient, but also be dignified. Because in the eyes of Allah, the most beloved of women are not those who let people trample over them. The most beloved are those who are kind and merciful, but who protect themselves, their dignity and their faith. That is when your kindness shines the brightest, and that is when it truly becomes a form of worship. One of the greatest struggles many women face is forgetting their true worth. Society today is constantly sending messages that try to define you, messages that say your worth lies in your looks, your status, your career, or your ability to please others. If you listen to these voices too much, you begin to measure yourself by standards that were never meant for you. But in reality, your worth does not come from what people think of you. Your worth comes from what Allah has given you, and Allah has already honored you. He says in the Quran, we have certainly honored the children of Adam. That includes you. Your value is not negotiable, and it is not dependent on people's approval. When a woman forgets her worth, she begins to accept things that are beneath her dignity. She allows people to disrespect her. She tolerates relationships that drain her. She settles for less than she deserves. She begins to think, maybe this is all I am worth. But my sister, never let anyone make you feel small when Allah has raised your status so high. You were created as a believer, a servant of Allah, someone whose forehead touches the ground in prayer, someone who can speak directly to her Creator at any moment. Do you realize how powerful that is? The world may not notice you, but the Lord of the world sees every tear, every sacrifice, every act of faith. That is where your worth lies. Sometimes women seek validation from the wrong places. They think their value comes from how attractive they appear, how popular they are, or how much attention they receive. But all of this is temporary and fragile. Beauty fades, people's attention shifts, popularity comes and goes. If your worth is built on these shaky foundations, then your self-esteem will rise and fall with them. One day you will feel valued, the next day you will feel worthless. That is no way to live. But when your worth is tied to Allah, it is unshakable. Allah does not change. His love does not fade. His appreciation of your sincerity does not disappear. When you tie your value to Him, you become steady, strong, and confident, no matter what the world says. Look at how Islam elevated the status of women. Before Islam, in many societies, women were treated as property, as burdens, even as disposable. But Islam came and gave women the right to inherit, the right to own property, the right to be educated, the right to participate in society with dignity. Islam came and declared that paradise lies beneath the feet of the mother. that raising daughters is a path to Jannah, that the most honored in the sight of Allah are the most righteous, not the most wealthy or beautiful. When you understand this, you stop looking at yourself through the eyes of people and you start looking at yourself through the honor Allah has given you. Knowing your worth also means refusing to compromise on your faith. Sometimes people will pressure you to let go of your values, telling you that you will only be accepted if you conform to their standards. They may say, you will be respected if you dress a certain way, if you behave a certain way, if you speak a certain way. But the truth is, the respect that is earned by abandoning your faith is not real respect. It is conditional approval, and it will vanish the moment you no longer serve their interests. Real respect comes from standing firm in your identity as a believer. Even those who disagree with you deep down respect someone who knows her worth and does not bend her principles for the sake of pleasing people. Sometimes the lack of knowing your worth shows up in relationships. A woman who knows her worth will not allow a man to mistreat her, belittle her, or strip away her dignity. She understands that marriage in Islam is built on love, mercy, and respect, not control, humiliation, and oppression. She knows that she is not a servant to anyone except Allah. She knows that compromise in marriage does not mean erasing herself. She knows that being patient does not mean accepting abuse. When you know your worth, you set the standard for how others treat you. When you forget your worth, you silently teach others that it is okay to mistreat you. And do not confuse humility with undervaluing yourself. Islam calls you to be humble before Allah, but humility does not mean you think you are worthless. True humility is when you know your worth, but you recognize that it all comes from Allah. You walk with dignity, but you do not walk with arrogance. You value yourself, but you also value others. You stand tall, but you never look down on people. That is the balance of a believer. So know your worth, my sister. You are a servant of the most merciful. You are a follower of the Prophet. You are a guardian of modesty, a carrier of dignity, a reflection of faith. Never let a human being strip that away from you. Never let society dictate your value. Never let anyone convince you that you are less than what Allah has made you. When you truly know your worth, you walk differently, you speak differently, you live differently. You stop begging for approval and you start living for the pleasure of Allah. And that is where true strength and true peace are found. In life, you will face countless pressures. People will try to shape you according to their desires. Society will attempt to redefine what is right and wrong. Trends will come and go, and with each trend, there will be voices calling you to let go of your principles. But one of the greatest strengths a believing woman can have is the ability to stand firm in her values. Your values are not something you picked up randomly. They are rooted in the Quran, in the teachings of the Prophet, in the timeless guidance of Islam. When you know that your values come from Allah, then no amount of pressure, no level of mockery, and no temptation of this world should be able to move you away from them. Standing firm does not mean life will be easy. In fact, it may make life more challenging because those who go against the tide are often questioned, ridiculed, or isolated. But remember, Allah never promised that holding on to faith would be effortless. The Prophet once said that a time will come when holding on to faith will be like holding on to hot coal. That description shows you the reality. It will hurt, it will burn, but if you have the courage to hold on to it, you will be among the few who succeed. Every time you resist compromise, every time you choose principle over popularity, you are proving your strength in the sight of Allah. Many women today feel pulled between two worlds. On one side, the world of faith, modesty, and submission to Allah. On the other side, the world of desires, fashion trends, and the constant need for validation. Sometimes this pull can feel overwhelming. You may feel as if you are the only one trying to live by your values while everyone else is moving in the opposite direction. But know this, standing firm, even if you are alone, is far more valuable than blending in and losing yourself. It is better to be firm and lonely with Allah than to be popular and disconnected from Him. There will always be those who try to belittle your values. They may say, why are you still holding on to modesty? Times have changed. They may say, why are you so strict with your prayer? You can relax a little. They may say, why don't you live more freely? You are limiting yourself. But in reality, the one who abandons their values is the one who is truly limited, because they are trapped by the expectations of people enslaved by their desires and never truly at peace. The one who stands firm in their values, on the other hand, is free. Free from people's control, free from society's chains, free to live with dignity and clarity. Your values are what keep you grounded. They are your anchor in the storms of life. Without them, you drift. With them, you remain stable no matter how strong the waves become. This is why the Quran describes the believer as someone with firm roots, like a tree that stands tall, producing fruit, benefiting others, and withstanding the seasons. If your values are deeply rooted in your faith, you will not be shaken easily. Sometimes the challenge comes not from strangers, but from those closest to you. Family, friends, or even a spouse may pressure you to compromise your values. This is a test. You love them, you want harmony, but you cannot allow love for people to outweigh love for Allah. Being firm does not mean being harsh. You can be respectful, you can be gentle, but you must be unwavering. If someone truly loves and respects you, they will learn to respect your values as well. And if they don't, then perhaps Allah is showing you who deserves a place in your life and who doesn't. There is also an inner battle. Sometimes it is not people but your own desires that challenge your values. You may find yourself tempted to take shortcuts, to bend the rules, to relax your principles just this once. But values are only proven when they are tested. It is easy to stand by your values when everything is smooth. The real proof comes when holding on to them costs you something, perhaps an opportunity, perhaps popularity, perhaps even relationships. That sacrifice is not a loss, because Allah promises that whoever gives up something for His sake, He will replace it with something far better. And remember, standing firm does not mean you will never slip. You may fall, you may make mistakes, but firmness means you return to your values again and again. It means you never abandon them completely, even when you are struggling. It means your compass is always pointing back to Allah, no matter how far you wander. A woman who stands firm in her values is a source of strength not only for herself, but for everyone around her. She inspires her children. She uplifts her family. She commands respect in her community. People may not always agree with her, but deep down they admire her consistency. And most importantly, Allah loves the servant who remains steadfast. He says in the Quran, indeed, those who have said, our Lord is Allah, and then remain steadfast, the angels will descend upon them, saying, do not fear and do not grieve, but receive good tidings of paradise, which you were promised. That is the reward for firmness, peace in this world and eternal joy in the hereafter. So never let the winds of society, the whispers of people, or the pull of your desires uproot the values that Allah has planted in you. Hold on to them with courage, even if the world is moving in another direction. For the one who stands firm in her values is not just protecting herself. She is building a legacy, inspiring others, and earning the pleasure of the one whose opinion is the only one that truly matters. There is great wisdom in setting boundaries, because without them, you will find yourself drained, disrespected, and even broken. Islam teaches us balance in every aspect of life. And one of the most important balances is knowing when to say yes and when to say no, when to open your heart and when to protect it, when to give and when to step back. Many women struggle with this because they fear disappointing people. They keep saying yes, they keep accommodating, they keep sacrificing until one day they wake up exhausted and realize that they have given away pieces of themselves to everyone else, while forgetting their own dignity and peace. Boundaries are not selfishness. Boundaries are a form of self-respect and a form of worship, because they help you protect the trust Allah has given you. Your body, your mind, your time, your faith. Too often, people assume that being kind means being available at all times, saying yes to every request, allowing others to cross every limit. But kindness without boundaries quickly turns into weakness, and people begin to take advantage. The Prophet was the kindest of all people, yet he had boundaries. He divided his time between worship, his family, his companions, and his responsibilities. He gave everyone their due right, but he never allowed anyone to consume all of his energy. He taught us that our soul has a right over us, our body has a right over us, and our family has a right over us. This is the essence of boundaries, to give each part of your life its rightful portion, without letting one side overpower the others. As a woman, setting boundaries means understanding that your kindness is a blessing, but it is not infinite. You must protect it. if you are constantly giving in to the demands of others, constantly tolerating disrespect, constantly saying yes out of guilt, you will eventually lose yourself. You may even start resenting the very people you wanted to please. And this is not fair to them, nor to you. Boundaries allow you to give with sincerity, not with bitterness. They allow you to help others without destroying yourself in the process. Some sisters fear that if they set boundaries, people will think they are rude, arrogant, or unkind. But in truth, people who genuinely respect you will also respect your boundaries. Those who do not respect them are the ones who are only interested in using you. Boundaries expose people's true intentions. When you say no with dignity, you are not rejecting a person. You are rejecting an action that oversteps your limits. And if someone cannot handle that, it says more about them than it does about you. Boundaries are also important in protecting your faith. In a world that constantly pushes you to compromise your values, you must be able to draw the line and say, this is where I stop. It could be in the way you dress, the way you speak, the gatherings you attend, or the work you choose to do. If you do not have clear boundaries, people will push you further and further away from what pleases Allah. At first, it may be something small, just a little compromise here and there, but slowly you may find yourself in places you never imagined. Boundaries are like fences around your faith. They protect you from slipping, and they remind others that your commitment to Allah is not negotiable. Even in relationships, boundaries are crucial. Love does not mean surrendering your entire self. Respect does not mean accepting abuse. Compromise does not mean erasing your own needs. A healthy relationship is built on mutual respect, where both sides honor each other's boundaries. If someone truly cares for you, they will not only accept your limits, but encourage you to maintain them. But if someone tries to break down every boundary you set, that is a clear sign that they are not valuing you as they should. And remember, Islam never asked you to be silent in the face of mistreatment. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to protect your heart and soul. Setting boundaries also means managing your time. Many women feel guilty for taking time for themselves, as though self-care is selfish. But in reality, if you are not taking care of your own health and spirituality, you will not be able to take care of others. Even the Prophet encouraged balanced time for worship, time for family, time for rest. Without boundaries, your time will be consumed by the endless demands of others, and you will be left with nothing for yourself or your connection with Allah. A woman who sets boundaries with her time is a woman who values herself and the trusts Allah has placed in her. And never forget that setting boundaries requires courage. It is not easy to say no, especially when you are used to pleasing everyone. But courage is part of faith. Each time you set a boundary, you are reminding yourself that your worth is not determined by how much you sacrifice for others at the expense of yourself. Your worth is determined by your relationship with Allah, and He has commanded you to live with dignity, not with humiliation. So do not fear boundaries. They are not walls that push people away. They are doors that allow healthy, respectful relationships to flourish. They are not signs of arrogance. They are signs of wisdom. They do not make you less kind. They make your kindness more sincere. Boundaries protect your heart, your mind, your body, and your faith. Without them, you are at the mercy of everyone else's demands. With them, you walk with dignity, balance, and peace. And that is exactly how Allah wants you to live. Many times, the concept of patience is misunderstood. People are told to be patient, and they take it to mean that they should remain silent in the face of oppression, that they should accept injustice without question, that they should let others trample over them, because speaking up would somehow make them less virtuous. But this is not what Islam teaches. Patience is one of the most noble qualities a believer can have, but patience does not mean being passive in front of wrong. Patience means holding on to faith, restraining yourself from reacting in anger, and continuing to strive for justice in the right way without losing dignity and without falling into sin. When you read the Quran, you see that patience is often mentioned alongside action. Allah speaks of those who remain steadfast, those who continue to strive, those who endure difficulties in the path of righteousness. If patience meant silence in the face of oppression, then the prophets would have remained quiet when their people rejected them. But look at their lives. Prophet Musa Inisio, BTT, Sui stood up to Pharaoh, the most powerful tyrant of his time. Prophet Ibrahim BCC stood firm against his people's idol worship. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad endured years of persecution, but he never accepted the oppression. He remained patient in his heart, yet active in his mission. This shows us clearly that patience is strength, not passivity. For many women, this distinction is critical. Too often, when they are mistreated, whether in their homes, in their communities, or in society, they are told, be patient. But what people really mean is, stay silent, don't complain, don't stand up for yourself. This is not the patience Allah commands. Yes, you must be patient with hardship. Yes, you must remain calm, but patience does not require you to accept humiliation or abuse. Islam gave you rights, and protecting those rights is not a lack of patience. In fact, it is part of your responsibility to honor the dignity Allah has given you. Think of the Prophet when he said, help your brother whether he is an oppressor or oppressed. The companions asked, how do we help him if he is the oppressor? He replied, by stopping him from his oppression. This means that standing up against oppression is not only a right, it is a duty. If you are facing injustice, staying silent only allows it to continue. But when you speak, when you take a stand, when you draw the line with dignity, you are not only protecting yourself, you are also helping the oppressor by preventing them from sinking further into sin. Patience, therefore, is not about accepting harm. It is about how you respond to harm. Do you lose yourself in anger, or do you remain composed and seek justice through the right means? Do you despair, or do you hold on to hope in Allah? Do you fight back with cruelty, or do you stand firm with dignity? This is the balance. Islam does not ask you to remain silent under oppression, but it asks you not to let oppression strip away your faith and your character. Some sisters confuse endurance with submission to abuse. They think that if they complain, if they seek help, if they say no, then they are failing in patience. But in truth, protecting yourself is part of patience. Seeking justice is part of patience. Saying no to oppression is part of patience. The real test is whether you do it with trust in Allah, without hatred in your heart, and without crossing the limits of what He has allowed. The patience is in holding yourself back from sin while you pursue what is right. When you remain silent under oppression, your oppressor grows stronger. They begin to think they are untouchable. But when you stand up with dignity, you remind them that there is accountability in this world and in the next. Even if you cannot change everything, your refusal to accept wrong is itself an act of resistance. Allah does not ask you to change the entire world, but He asks you not to accept falsehood in your own life. Patience also means being strategic. Sometimes speaking up immediately may not be safe or wise, but patience gives you the clarity to wait for the right moment, the right words, and the right method. It is not about silence forever. It is about wisdom in how you act. The Prophet endured the harm of Quraysh for years, but when the time came, he migrated to Medina, he built a community, and he confronted the oppressors with strength. That is patience combined with action. So, my sister, never let anyone use the word patience to silence you. Patience is beautiful, but it does not mean accepting humility.